Hey folks, see if you've ever had this problem. You're trying to eat a little healthier, but you're in the grocery store aisle, you're looking at packaging, nutrition labels, and they're so confusing, you don't know what's good for you and what's not. Well, this is why I love Thrive Market, my go-to online grocery store for getting all of my healthy essentials delivered, and I don't even have to leave my couch. Finding better options for the whole family is easy with Thrive Market's Healthy Swap Scanner. Just scan a product and it instantly recommends healthier swaps. This is how my wife and I found our new favorite snack, IQ bars. Sometimes I eat one in the morning with my coffee, sometimes just later on in between meals. They also have so many on-site filters that make it simple to shop by the needs of everyone in the family. Maybe you have someone who needs gluten-free food, somebody that has a peanut allergy. Well, no more scouring ingredient labels when you can just filter it all on Thrive Market. My wife and I often use the high protein filter to stock up on things like Sieti chips. Ready to make the switch? Go to thrivemarket.com/TCAT for 30% off your first order, plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/TCATT. thrivemarket.com/TCAT. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 419 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Trying to stay warm?
Yeah, it's hard to do.
It's been below zero here a few days, and I'm not happy about it.
I can tell. You're a little angry.
Sometimes hangry.
Oh, I can go along with that one.
Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
Sarah Elias.
Hey, Sarah.
Samantha Peters.
Well, thanks, Samantha.
Catherine Deacon jumped up to our highest level.
Oh, you're awesome, Catherine.
Beth Kubera.
Hey, Beth.
Rinda Henskin.
Henskin?
Yep.
Yeah.
Keita.
What's going on, Keita?
Destiny Valentine.
Well, thanks, Destiny.
Adele.
There's Adele. She got some good lungs on her.
Yep. Ashton Graves.
What's going on, Ashton?
And last but not least, Rebecca Marley.
I like that name, Marley.
Yeah. I hope no one takes she's got some good lungs on her the wrong way.
I meant the singing, Adele.
Pipes. Yeah. She's got the pipes. A lot of times, that can refer to something else.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Chlorange.
Chlorange, such an interesting name.
Yeah, if it is a name, I don't really know what it is, but we don't make up the Patreon monikers. People make their own up. So
it's a word, interesting word.
Yeah. So let's talk about True Crime All the Time Unsolved. We have an episode out right now on the Fort Worth missing trio. This goes back to 1974, and it was just before Christmas that three girls went out Christmas shopping and never came home. So it's a good episode. Check that out. We talk about the leads, the potential suspects, all of that.
Just really sad.
Yeah, obviously it's incredibly sad. We also had a Patreon episode that dropped Saturday night, and it was on Carrie Murphy, who in 2012 called 911 to report that someone broke into her home and attacked her mother, but Carrie became the main suspect after she told multiple stories about what happened that night. But there's so many twists and turns in this one, and people become involved and then get ruled out, become involved again.
I know.
It's
like you're just walking around in circles for a little bit.
Yes, there are a lot of suspects saying a lot of things. Very little of it truthful.
But it's a really good case.
It is. It is a good case. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
Hey, I am.
We are talking about Shawn Gant-Benalcazar, Austin, Texas, experienced 3 similar murders. In December 2014, The killer left behind no DNA evidence, and the police worried they were dealing with a serial killer. A neighbor testing out his new thermal imaging scope recorded evidence that would help identify the killer. And I know you have a number of thermal imaging gadgets, both mounted on guns. Some are just goggles that you wear as you're out all dressed in black. First of all, I don't know how you afford these things. Second of all, I don't know what you do with all these things, but
they're a very key part of my wardrobe.
Mm-hmm. And what you do, which is very, very secretive. Kathy Blair was born in Burbank, California. On May 31st, 1961, she was 53 years old when she was murdered. Her sister, Kirsten Matheson, told 48 Hours that Kathy always loved singing, and she moved from California to Austin, Texas because of her love for music. She graduated from UT Austin with a master's degree in vocal performance. Kathy decided to stay in Austin because she loved the city and it felt like home to her. And a lot of people do love Austin.
They do.
What's the slogan? Keep Austin weird. There's a number of different slogans about Austin. But the one thing that is definitely true is that they have a thriving music scene.
They do.
There used to be a show, maybe it's still on, but a long time ago they had a show called Austin City Lights City Limits. I forget what
It was City Lights.
I think it was too.
I know I was supposed to perform there once. I just those days when I was down in Nashville singing and
couldn't make it to Austin.
Couldn't make it to
in time because you were at the Opry.
Yeah, that's where I wrote that song, "Dear Austin,"
for Blake Shelton.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Thanks, Blake, for buying that off of me.
Kathy had been divorced twice and had 2 children. By 2014, she was renting a house in a quiet neighborhood in Austin. Kathy was the director of the Christian Choral Society of Austin and the music coordinator for the Redeemer Presbyterian Church. Her students loved her and considered her a role model.
Sounds like a pretty good person.
Well, let's face it, as do many of the victims that we, ultimately end up talking about. In November 2014, Kathy's son, Joseph Hargis, temporarily moved in with her while awaiting his assignment from the Navy. He had a night out on December 5th, 2014, and returned just after noon on the 6th. He found his mother dead in her bedroom. He told the 911 operator per 48 Hours, "I think my mom is dead. There's a lot of blood. I think someone broke in and killed my mom."
Tragic.
There was evidence of a great struggle. Kathy had been choked, stabbed, and slashed across her neck. She was robbed after she was killed. And you said, obviously a horrible situation. Number one, for a son to find his mom like this, but then, just in the way that she was killed. This was obviously a very vicious murder. She fought her attacker. She wanted to live, but obviously whoever killed her overpowered her, choked her, stabbed, and slashed her. Detective Derek Israel was the lead investigator. He told 48 Hours that several things stood out to him. The murder occurred in a low crime area, and there was nothing about Kathy's home that stood out from others to make her a target. And I think that's interesting, right? As you're looking at or kind of going through the victimology. Well, what is it about this person?
Yeah, what made someone pick her?
Now, obviously it could be someone who knows her, who has an issue with her. But if you're looking at it from a stranger murder standpoint, well, then there's got to be something that stands out. Maybe she's driving an expensive car or, something like that. She's got the most expensive house on the block. I think this detective is kind of saying, we didn't see anything like that.
Nothing really jumped out at us.
Kathy kept a jewelry case in her bedroom. All the drawers had been pulled out and emptied, then left in a pile on the floor. And I think from that alone, you can draw a pretty safe conclusion that it seems like robbery is involved in this thing. Now, there have been many times where drawers have been pulled out, emptied, and it's nothing more than an attempt to stage a robbery.
Sure.
To try to cover up what really happened or the real reason for a murder. There were traces of blood and shoe prints throughout the home, but no DNA evidence left by the killer. All right, so you've got some stuff to work with, right? Blood. Is that the victim's blood, the assailant's blood, maybe both, and shoe prints? But if you don't have someone you're looking at, shoe prints aren't going to help you a whole lot.
No, they're not.
Investigators soon received a key piece of evidence from an unlikely source. Around 1:30 a.m. on the night of December 6th, neighbor Rob Leaf, who lived just a few blocks from Kathy, was out for a late night walk. Leaf told 48 Hours he was testing out a new thermal scope and was trying to get video of some deer in their neighborhood. His scope picked up a heat signature, but it wasn't a deer. And I don't know how many people have seen these thermal kind of imaging scopes, maybe in video games, maybe in the movies. They are unbelievable
Right.
in what they can show you that you can't see with the naked eye. I know they're used a lot in hog hunting, I believe.
Yeah.
I've seen some of that in hunting shows on TV. Obviously, the military uses them.
Oh, absolutely. I have one in my truck at nighttime so I can drive with my lights off.
Which is very smart.
Yeah.
I've always said that. You know, a lot of times we're talking about the helicopter that's up, you know, trying to track the fugitive, and it will have thermal imaging.
Sure. Yeah.
And can see somebody kind of lying down in the grass that maybe nobody else could see. They might walk right by this person. And this is kind of along those same lines.
Some of the more expensive drones have those on them as well.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. I'm talking military grade drones.
Well, these thermal scopes are fairly expensive, I believe. I don't own one, but the ones I've seen online and stuff, they're pricey.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, if you're out testing this scope. Now, I'm assuming he just had the scope. It wasn't mounted to a gun and he's just walking around the neighborhood, because if so, he's pointing this gun at something that is not a deer.
Probably wouldn't go over so well.
No, probably not. Leaf said he saw headlights approaching and a car parked on his street. He continued recording with his scope and zoomed in. He captured someone getting out of the vehicle, walking down the sidewalk, and turning down Kathy's street. So apparently this scope had some type of recording capability as well. Now, you and I have talked about a number of different ways that crimes have been solved by technology. I think this kind of personal thermal scope is a first for us, where someone actually catches who might ultimately be the killer through one of these thermal scopes.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't think much of it, and the next day he traveled to Las Vegas for a pre-planned trip with friends. He read the news on his phone and saw an article about the murder. When he read the address, he realized there was a chance he had relevant evidence.
And how weird would that be?
I think it'd be very strange.
Yeah.
When you believe you might have seen a killer after they had committed what we just described as a very heinous crime. And then you start thinking, well, I might be able to provide police with something that could help crack the case. There would have to be some exhilaration there.
Right.
Almost like, man, I got to get back to Austin as quick as I can. I think that's what he did so that he could turn the video over to the police. Now, the video couldn't identify the man in the video or his license plate number, but they did determine that he was driving a sedan. Because let's face it, anybody who has seen like pictures of thermal imaging, it's like a lot of yellows, oranges, and reds.
Right.
It's not like a clear picture, like a video camera.
Yeah, it's not a crystal clear image.
No, it's not 4K,
No, it's not even 2K.
It's not even 2K. Just 9 days later, an elderly couple was murdered in another quiet Austin neighborhood. About 15 minutes from Kathy's home, Billy and Sydney Shelton were married for 64 years. Sydney was 85 years old and Billy was 83. They had 3 children. They were described as kind, hardworking people with a positive outlook on life.
Wait, to be married 64 years? I think you got to be that. That's a long time to be married.
Have a positive outlook on life. Well, you got to have a positive outlook on marriage, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Nurse Dow Coterla was making her scheduled visit to the Shelton home on December 15, 2014. She knocked and no one answered. And then she noticed that the front door had been what she called busted open. And to me, Gibbs, that's a description of like someone kicking in a door.
Right.
Or the police using one of their battering rams or whatever that thing's called to, bust a door open.
A doorbuster.
Or a doorbuster, which is very different than a dustbuster.
Yeah, different, used for different reasons. You use the dustbuster afterwards to clean up the mess.
She said the bedroom had been ransacked. She saw Sydney's body on the bed and immediately ran out of the house. And I think that's probably the first thought on most people's minds when they walk into a home and see a dead body. I'm getting the heck out of here for a couple of different reasons. First of all, you got to find what you might consider a safe space. You don't know if someone's still in there.
That's true.
And you have to call the authorities, but do you want to do it from inside the home when you don't really know what's going on? And I would say for me, probably not. I'm going to call the authorities, but I'm going to get out of this house and maybe back up a little bit so I can see what's going on. Sydney's body was visible on the bed, but Billy was covered by a blanket. It was a gruesome crime scene. The couple had been beaten and stabbed to death. A knife was found embedded in Billy's eye. This is an 83-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And somebody felt the need to stab her directly in her eye.
Sicko.
Sydney's cause of death was determined to be homicide by strangulation and blunt force injuries. Billy died of sharp and blunt force injuries and strangulation. Investigators found a shoe print in the carpet near a guest bedroom door. Similar to the Kathy Blair case, the jewelry box drawers had been removed, emptied, and left on the floor. So because of these similarities, investigators became worried. They were dealing with a serial killer. They tried to keep this information private to avoid causing fear. Because, it's going to be on the news, right?
Sure it is.
There's multiple murders. But there's murders on the news every day.
Unfortunately.
I'm not making light of it.
No.
But when they come on the news and say, we believe we have a potential serial killer in your area, okay, now people's ears start to perk up.
Yeah, because it's different odds now.
Well, I think when, you're watching the news or even if it's on in the background and you see a report about someone being murdered, but you don't know the circumstances. You don't know who they are. I don't want to say it doesn't mean anything to you because every life is precious, but you don't have a direct connection with it.
Right.
And you might make the assumption that, well, they were into drugs or they were at the wrong place at the wrong time or they were targeted by someone they knew.
Yeah.
When you start talking serial killer, then it becomes, well, that could be me.
Yeah.
Because the serial killer may not be discriminating or may not be choosing their targets based on anything but randomness. And that's very, very scary.
Or even worse, you could say, I match the description of the others, so that puts me at the top of the list, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Obviously, when you go back to something like the Ted Bundy case, when it was learned that he was killing all of these women with kind of, straight, dark hair. Women started going out and changing up their hair. They were cutting it. They were dyeing it. They were doing anything they could not to look like his perverted victim type.
Sure, yeah.
Authorities determined that Kathy Blair had no connection to the Sheltons, and none of the victims had any known enemies. I think everybody knows. We've probably even talked about it, right? Most people are killed by someone they know. That's just a fact. The statistics, prove it out. It doesn't mean that there are not serial killers or there are not stranger murders, because there are. But I think it's the reason why police start with people closest to the victims, because by and large, that's who normally commits most murders. Someone known to the victim.
Yeah, it's been proven. So why wouldn't you want to work that angle?
Don't let allergy season slow you down. Get common allergy meds for as little as $15 with GoodRx. So you and your family, pets included, can stop allergy symptoms before they start. GoodRx is free and easy to use. Just search for your prescription on the website or the app, compare prices, and get a free coupon to show your pharmacist. Save at over 70,000 local pharmacies nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Publix, Kroger, and many more. Check GoodRx before every trip to the pharmacy to save up to 80% on both brand and generic medications. And did you know GoodRx rewards you for saving money too? Join GoodRx Rewards today and earn points every time you use a coupon. Remember, GoodRx is not insurance, but works whether you have insurance or not. And it could be your insurance copay price. I've been using GoodRx for years, and I can't tell you how many times I have saved money even with my insurance. Stop allergies before they start and save big on allergy medications this season with GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/TCAT. That's goodrx.com/TCATT. Once the temps start rising, I realized I was back in the same worn out rotation. Same tank, same shorts, same everything. So I gave my daily uniform an upgrade with Quince. Their pieces are easy, elevated, and somehow make me feel more put together without even trying. Like their 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30. Luxe swimwear, Italian leather platform sandals, and so much more. The best part, everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm getting ready to stock up on shorts for summer from Quince, and I know they're going to be amazing because everything I've ordered has been of the highest quality, and the prices are amazing. Treat your closet to a little summer glow up with Quince. Go to quince.com/TCAT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/TCATT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCAT. Investigators needed to figure out if there was a possible link between the murders. A potential suspect was identified. Almost 3 weeks after Kathy was murdered, Kathy's landlord told the police he hired 49-year-old Timothy Parlin and his brother in May 2014 to do some landscaping on the property, and Kathy complained about his work. Parlin was fired. A friend reported that Parlin was weird and rude, according to 48 Hours. Okay, could that be a motive for murder? You complained about me, I got fired. I'm going to get back at you.
Yeah, it cost me my job.
Also, a background check revealed Parlin spent decades in prison for burglary, specifically jewelry theft.
And we know that was what was stolen at the two homes, jewelry.
So they had to be very suspicious of this guy. Detectives Kerry Scanlon and Derek Israel approached Tim Parlin and told him they were trying to solve the murder of Kathy Blair. Parlin asked how Kathy died. To them, it seemed like this guy was trying to figure out what they already knew. And that wouldn't be all that strange for, some people, especially guilty people, to kind of ask questions of the police to find out what they know. Are they zeroing in on a suspect? What details do they have?
I mean, you want to gauge it. They could want to gauge it.
Yeah, I'm glad you changed it up that way.
Yeah.
At this time, Parlin and his wife were living at an extended stay hotel called the In-Town Suites. He didn't allow the detectives to search his room and claimed his wife was sleeping inside. The detectives returned on December 30th, 2014. Parlin's wife was home alone and allowed a search of the room. She informed them that they knew Billy and Sidney Shelton from their church. According to Parlin versus State, Parlin's brother was a deacon at the church and had also done some handiwork for the Sheltons, at times assisted by Tim. Parlin had also lived with his brother at one point, who lived on the same street as the Sheltons. Okay, it's a pretty good connection here to this Tim Parlin guy.
Yeah, you got him in and around the area.
He knows the victims. Like you said, he's in the area. We already heard that he spent a lengthy amount of time in prison for jewelry theft. The police have to be salivating over this guy.
Yeah, I think they're pretty happy that they have a decent lead.
Inside the hotel room, detectives found a pawn receipt for a jewelry pendant, one of the pieces missing from Kathy's home. The receipt was also timestamped for the evening of December 6, 2014, less than 24 hours after Kathy was murdered.
All right, now the detectives have to be pretty pumped.
Well, he's just looking better and better, right, as a suspect. Tim Parlin was in custody on December 30th for driving without a license. He was questioned and denied any knowledge of the murders. He was given a citation and released from custody. So that was kind of a stroke of luck that, he got taken into custody. They can go in, they can question him, but they didn't get anything out of him. And it wasn't a serious crime, so he had to be released.
Right.
He was a strong suspect, but the only detail that didn't add up was the vehicle. Parlin drove a van, and the neighbor's infrared video showed a car. On January 1st, 2015, the police spoke to Parlin's sister, Edie. Edie said Parlin gave all of their family members jewelry for Christmas. She explained that she loaned her Toyota Camry to her brother in November 2014 because someone stole his van. He returned the car on December 26th, 2014, and her Camry was very similar to the outline of the vehicle captured in the infrared video.
You hear that, you get kind of excited as a investigator.
Well, it just seems as though everything they find out about this guy, it's just lining up.
Yeah.
Who gives every member of their family jewelry? And I'm assuming these didn't come in boxes from, Zales or Macy's or some jewelry store.
Hey, I got something for you. Just pick a hand. Left or right?
It's just a gift bag full of jewelry.
Yeah. Enjoy.
The same Camry was also captured approaching the pawn shop on December 6, 2014. Edie signed a form allowing a search and seizure of her car. A brown stain on the passenger seat and floorboard was identified as Kathy Blair's blood. So, we keep saying they're feeling better and better. I think at this point, detectives felt ready to question Parlin and try to elicit a confession. He was arrested again on January 2nd for possession of a controlled substance and a parole violation hold. Detective Derek Israel interviewed him and questioned him about the bloodstains in the car. Israel told Parlin that they knew he killed Kathy Blair, but he insisted he didn't do it. He provided an alibi that turned out to be false. Shocker.
Yeah, exactly.
For a while, he refused to say who was involved, but after several hours of questioning, he finally said, "Okay, I'll tell you who it was." Shawn Gant-Benalcazar. But police didn't believe him. And why would they? He's lied.
Sure.
Everything that they have is pointing towards him. And all of a sudden he conveniently offers up, this other guy. They thought he acted alone. But prosecutors required them to eliminate Shawn as a suspect before they could charge Parlin with murder. And that makes sense, right? Because what is the first thing his defense attorney is going to do?
Yeah, they're going to call out this other individual and say, reasonable doubt.
And as the police, if you didn't even check this guy out, if you didn't talk to him, if you didn't verify his alibi, that's not going to look great in court.
No.
Parlin remained in jail for parole violation, and detectives contacted Shawn, a 30-year-old former high school science teacher who lived in Galveston, Texas. He had no criminal record. Detective Derek Israel told Shawn that Parlin had implicated him in the murder, and they needed to eliminate him as a suspect. Shawn seemed eager to cooperate with the investigation and agreed to meet at the Galveston Police Department on January 9th, 2015.
I mean, who wouldn't say, okay, let's clear me out, because I definitely didn't do any of this.
Did you say clear me out? Because that has a very different connotation to me than I think what you mean to say. Let's clear this up.
Let's clear this up.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll leave the clear me out for later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Now, if he did have something to do with it, well, then you're worried. But if you didn't, you're like, hey, yeah, let's just go ahead and get this over with so I can be eliminated and you can move on. But I just wonder, when the detective says, we just need to eliminate you as a suspect, I almost took that to mean we don't believe it's you. We believe that Parlin acted alone, but we have to do this, right? We have to eliminate you as a suspect. But we're not really looking all that hard.
No.
But Shawn's interview lasted 5 hours. He claimed he barely knew Tim Parlin. They met a few months earlier because his sister was dating Parlin's nephew. Shawn admitted he'd been to Austin a few times over the past month during the weekends of both murders. And he said he stayed with Tim during those visits.
But I hardly know him. But I stayed with him.
Yeah. Barely knowing someone, I guess, is a matter of degrees. What does barely mean? You met for one time for 30 minutes?
Right.
Or you've known this person for 6 months and you've stayed at their house 13 times.
Yeah. It's a little different.
It's a little subjective, though, also. Shawn said in his interview, the thing is, honestly, I want to help you guys out because this guy, wolf in sheep's clothing, basically, he didn't tell me anything about his past, and I'm starting to feel like he set me up like a patsy or something. Yeah, I don't know when that started. It should have began when the police said, hey, this guy implicated you in these murders. But I said this was a 5-hour interview. And as the hours passed, Shawn revealed more information. He admitted he was in the passenger seat when Parlin went into Kathy Blair's home. He was asked how blood got onto the passenger seat, and he said Parlin returned to the car with a bloody pillowcase and threw it onto the passenger side floorboard. Shawn looked in it and saw jewelry, but he didn't want anything to do with it. Okay, that does not explain how blood got onto the passenger seat. Maybe in the act of him throwing the pillowcase, it hit. I don't know. If you're sitting in the seat, how is it getting behind you as he's throwing it onto the floorboard? I was having a hard time understanding that.
Yeah.
Also, as he's talking about this, yeah, bloody pillowcase, I looked in it, I saw jewelry. I didn't want anything to do with it. Well, did you question Tim about this? Hey, what's this bloody suitcase? First of all, why is it bloody? And what's all this jewelry? Shawn asked to use the restroom. About 4 hours into the interview, Detective Carrie Scanlon noticed that his walk was similar to the man in the infrared video. And I'm getting a real like Bigfoot vibe here.
Yeah.
You know, you ever see some of the fake Bigfoot videos or reportedly fake Bigfoot videos? I'm using my air quotes now. You know, you got a certain walk.
Yeah. Like kind of stiff-legged
in each one, you know. Now, we don't know how the real Bigfoot would walk, so we don't know how to compare.
Well, yeah, that shows you on the video how he walks.
But it's just so interesting when you go back to this kind of thermal infrared video thing. You can't see the person's face, but obviously you can see the movements, and this detective is really picking up on something. The detectives continued asking Shawn if he went into Kathy Blair's house. He finally admitted, I was scared, and he was taking a threatening tone. He told me to go in the house and get the stuff. So we just got done, kind of doing our Patreon episode.
Yeah.
That dropped on Saturday. And we went through this where, you had a number of suspects who just kept changing their story. Every time the police confronted them with a certain piece of information. Okay, well, wait a minute. I got something for that. Let me change my story so that it now fits with what you're telling me.
Oh, you mean on that day this happened? Oh, yeah, that's the day I actually did that. I was thinking it was the day before. I just got my days mixed up.
Shawn confessed that he went into the house and stole jewelry. He entered through an unlocked back door. He said, I looked around and kind of prowled and snuck in quietly. I turned on a couple of lights in rooms. Where I didn't see her, I found the room where she was, and she was fast asleep. That was the room her jewelry box was in. And so I opened the jewelry box, took the stuff out, put it in the thing. Maybe he went back. I don't know. But I didn't kill her. And this is the other thing that you kind of often see is, okay, how much of the truth can I tell to make it seem believable while still leaving out the parts that really make me look guilty?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big part.
Sure it is.
Of what people tried to do.
I mean, they're definitely going to try to control the narrative.
But as you can imagine, right, the detectives continued pushing Shawn. And I want to play a video from part of the interview, because I think it's probably the most important part.
She woke up, she lunged at me, grabbed the knife, started trying to wrestle it out of my hand. And then it was a struggle, and I stabbed her in the neck. I didn't even want to do it. I was trying to get the jewelry without doing it.
Okay, so yeah, we've changed quite a bit, right? Shawn has, from his original statement to his changed statement. Now he's confessing to killing Kathy. But I thought it was so strange where he said, I really didn't want to do it. I was trying to get the jewelry without killing her, but I ended up stabbing her in the neck.
Because that damn jewelry was more important in somebody's life.
Well, and he claimed that after the murder, he gave all the jewelry to Parlin because he didn't want to keep it. So he didn't want to kill, but he wanted the jewelry, but then he didn't want to keep the jewelry.
Yeah, I mean, unless he just felt so guilty for what he did, he just wanted to get rid of it.
The next goal of the interview was figuring out what Shawn knew about the murders of Sidney and Billy Shelton. Shawn claimed he didn't know anything, and the interview ended. Tim Parlin was questioned again on January 16th and was told about Shawn's confession. Parlin agreed to go for a drive to show the police where Shawn allegedly disposed of property after the murder and to take a detective to the scene of a prior burglary. During the drive, he made statements implicating himself as an accomplice to the burglaries and the murder. Well, and how can he not? I mean, if you're taking police to show them where the spoils of your burglaries and the murder were disposed of, well, how do you know that information? You have to be implicating yourself somehow.
Absolutely.
According to Parlin versus State, Parlin took the police to a bridge over a creek and described how Shawn put clothing, shoes, and other bloodstained items into a grocery bag for disposal. He tried to ask Shawn about what he did. Shawn allegedly said he put the knife to their face or in their face, then went back to put his foot in her face. Parlin denied being present during Kathy's murder, but recalled that Shawn told him he kicked him using the bottom of his foot. He didn't identify the man Shawn said he kicked. Parlin said Shawn chose to kill Kathy because he felt he was not treated fairly on the landscaping job and wanted to get back at her landlord.
This time I'm going to get back at the landlord. I'm going to kill the people that rent.
Take the life of an innocent person or innocent individuals. That'll really show the landlord.
Exactly. Makes a lot of sense.
You know, even the smallest step forward can make a big difference in your financial future. When you open a Chime checking account, you're one step closer to a better financial future with no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Making progress has never been easier. I think we've all been in that position where we've had an overdraft. Well, with Chime, you can overdraft up to $200 with no fees. That's amazing. And they have over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. Make progress towards a better financial future with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/TCAT. That's chime.com/TCATT. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs. MyPay eligibility requirements apply. Credit limits range from $20 to $500. $2 fee applies to get funds instantly. Crime checking account required. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details.
Hey, listeners. It's Leon Nafok. I'm here to tell you about a brand new series from me and Prologue Projects, an Audible original series called Final Thoughts, Jerry Springer, the story of a television show that changed the world and the man who gave it his name. But did you know that before the Jerry Springer Show made him notorious all over the world, Springer was something else entirely? A respected Midwestern politician, the progressive mayor of a major Rust Belt city, a man many saw as a future leader in Democratic politics. How did this idealistic rising star, with his lofty political ambitions, take a turn in such a radically different direction? You can find the whole series available now on Audible. Just search for Final Thoughts, Jerry Springer on the Audible app, or go to audible.com/Springer.
Parlin took the police to the spot where he claimed he dropped Shawn off for the Shelton murders, but maintained these hands didn't kill anyone. So I know everything there is to know about these burglaries, the murders. I just didn't kill anyone myself.
Right.
But the whole time, again, he's implicating himself. He's giving so much away that he was a part of it. Detective Derek Israel told 48 Hours, Shawn murdered the Sheltons. Tim Parlin was a party to that murder. He planned it. He facilitated it. He profited from it. He assisted in it. After the arrests were announced, authorities said Shawn killed Kathy Blair while trying to steal her jewelry. Parlin's role was still under investigation. In late January 2015, the Austin police revealed that the men were linked to the Shelton murders. However, there was no forensic evidence linking Shawn to the Shelton murders, so he could still deny killing the couple. Prosecutors chose to charge Shawn with only the murder of Kathy Blair because they had a confession. He was indicted for capital murder on March 26, 2015. And I think the confession, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think anytime you hear the suspect or the person on trial say in their own words, this is what I did. This is how I killed the victim.
Right.
That is powerful stuff. But now he hasn't admitted to killing the Sheltons. He hasn't confessed to it. They really don't have much on him. Other than the word of Tim Parlin, that's going to be tough to prosecute because that guy already has demonstrated that his credibility is shit.
Yeah, he's not honorable.
No. And he was a part of it. Tim Parlin was indicted for all 3 murders. On June 2nd, 2015, his charges included 3 counts of capital murder in commission of burglary, 1 count of serial capital murder, and 1 count of multiple capital murders. He was also indicted for a burglary that occurred on November 30th, 2014. It's kind of interesting, right? The police believe that it's Shawn Gant-Benalcazar who actually murdered Kathy and the Sheltons. But yet, Tim Parlin gets charged with a lot more than Shawn does.
He does.
But he also admitted to being involved in all of it.
And that probably plays a very large role in it.
Yeah, where Shawn only has admitted to being involved in Kathy's murder. Shawn's murder trial started on April 2nd, 2018.
Took a while.
We talk about that all the time. And this was actually pre-COVID, so you can't blame it on that. It's just sometimes the wheels of justice, they take a while. There's so many motions, and there's time for discovery, there's delays, there's this and that. It seems like a couple of years is now kind of like the standard before someone goes on trial for murder.
Yeah.
The jury heard about all the evidence found at the scene, including a bloody shoe print that was the same brand and size worn by Shawn. Kathy's cause of death was revealed at trial. Travis County Medical Examiner Dr. Leisha Wood concluded she died from multiple sharp wounds and asphyxiation. Neighbor Rob Leaf testified about the video he recorded on the night of the murder, and Kathy's son testified about finding his mother's body. And there is some video of Kathy's son on the witness stand. It's tough stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
He's older by the time that, this trial takes place, but still just him describing finding his mother. It's tear-jerking stuff, no doubt about it. The prosecution's case was primarily based on Shawn's confession, which was presented to the jury. The defense argued the confession was coerced and that Shawn was threatened by detectives in the hallway when he asked for a bathroom break, which was not recorded. Shawn also got on the stand to discuss the alleged threats. And I have a clip of Shawn on the stand that I want to play, and then we'll talk about that.
I felt like I had to confess to this crime that I didn't commit, and if I didn't, the questioning was just going to continue, and even if I just stopped saying anything, I had been led to believe that they would quote-unquote prove that I had done it regardless of what I said.
All right. Shawn, did you go into Kathy Blair's home?
No, I did not.
Have you ever gone into her home?
No, I have not.
Did you kill Kathy Blair?
No, I did not.
He also testified per 48 hours. Their exact words were, "This is important, and you're not going anywhere until we finish. That if I didn't explain a reason for having done it, even though I didn't do it, I would get the death penalty." Right? So he's talking about these threats, but you heard him in the clip. He's asked by one of his defense attorneys, were you there? No. Have you ever been there? No. Did you kill Kathy Blair? No. Which is obviously far different than what he said in the video.
Of course.
Shawn insisted that Tim Parlin killed Kathy Blair. According to KVUE, Shawn testified, he said that I guess he had hit something. Approaching the bed, he hit something with his foot and caused her to wake up. He said that there was a struggle over the knife and that he stabbed her neck and that she had kicked him and he grabbed her by the legs and pulled her off the bed. Parlin allegedly told him, "You're not going to say anything about it because I used your knife. So if you say something about it, that's going to get to the cops." So there's two things for me here. One is that could Shawn be testifying that what Parlin said happened was actually what happened to Shawn while he was in that house, right? Did he kick the bed? Did he wake Kathy up? He's just phrasing it as though, Parlin told him this.
Right.
And then the second thing is him saying that Tim used his knife. Okay. I know your number one rule is you never loan anyone one of your knives.
Never. Ever. Not even my butter knife.
After 19 hours of deliberation, the judge declared a mistrial on April 12, 2018. Tim Parlin was scheduled to go to trial next for the murders of Kathy Blair and Billy and Sidney Shelton. His trial began on May 15, 2018. Prosecutors argued that Parlin conspired to commit the burglaries and murders and had connections to all three victims. As mentioned, he knew Kathy Blair because he did landscaping at her home, and he knew the Sheltons because they attended the same church. And his wife had done in-home massages for Billy Shelton per KXAN. So he did have, apparently, quite a bit of connections to all three of the victims. Prosecutors argued that per Texas law, the jury could convict him of capital murder, even if he didn't go in the house because he participated in the crime. Investigators still believed Shawn was the killer, but they didn't have enough evidence against him in the Shelton case. Tim Parlin admitted that he drove Shawn to both homes, but his defense argued there was no evidence he entered either home. Shawn acted alone. But to me, Gibbs, it's not great when you admit that you even drove the person to the murder scene and that you knew. Now, if you're saying, well, I just gave him a ride, I didn't know about it, but it seems like he had admitted to way more than that.
He sure did.
In closing arguments, the prosecution called Parlin the mastermind behind the murders. Tim Parlin was found guilty on May 25th, 2018, and received a mandatory sentence of life without parole.
Wow. Didn't mess around, did they?
No. And I'm sure he was not happy because, the guy who he believed, and even prosecutors believed, killed all three of these people still has yet to be convicted. But Shawn's retrial started on October 24th, 2018. The defense argued that Parlin deliberately developed a relationship with Shawn with the goal of getting him to conspire with him. They conceded Parlin convinced Shawn to commit a burglary, but it was not the burglary of Kathy Blair's home. The prosecution's evidence was similar to the first trial and included Shawn's recorded confession. Once again, the prosecution argued that Parlin was the mastermind and Shawn was the sick and twisted person he chose to carry out the attack against Kathy Blair. The defense argued the confession was coerced. The prosecution countered that Shawn spoke about details only the killer would know, including the fact that Kathy was killed with a knife and had multiple stab wounds to the neck.
Which is a strong point.
Yeah, I would say it is. But let's just say for a minute that the confession was coerced. I don't believe it was in this case, but let's say it was. Then part of that, to me, would be the police feeding the person details of the crime that only they knew.
Yeah.
That makes their confession even more believable. And I'm sure the defense argued part of that as well. On November 2nd, 2018, Shawn was convicted of capital murder and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. So they essentially got the same sentences. I think the difference was Shawn was never convicted of anything having to do with the murder of the Sheltons. They just didn't have the evidence.
They couldn't lock him down on that.
But they were sure that he not only killed Kathy Blair, he killed the Sheltons as well. Both Tim and Shawn appealed their sentences. 48 Hours spoke to Shawn in a video call. He maintained that his confession was coerced and Tim killed Kathy Blair. He said, when I went to go see him at 4 a.m., he said, well, we're going to go get breakfast, and drove me out to the place and then said that he had killed her and told me about it. Shawn was asked how he could have known the movements of the killer and explained, anything that I said was something that either, Tim told me or I just made up.
Made some of it up.
It just happened to be the right details.
Sometimes people get things right.
Tim Parlin also spoke to 48 Hours and claimed to have no knowledge of Kathy's murder. He claimed that Shawn was silent and stone cold when he returned to the car that night. He was told he'd been described as a master manipulator, but said he had a low IQ and a big heart. And there's not many times that people want to admit they have a low IQ, but this is one where it could potentially help you.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you might want to play into it. Hey, I'm just letting you know, I am not that bright.
I'd be like, hey, I know people think I'm Mensa, but my IQ is only 142.
There's no way I could have pulled all this off.
Exactly.
Tim Parlin's conviction was affirmed on November 22nd, 2019. Shawn's appeal was denied on November 13th, 2020. So Gibbs, as we wrap this one up, it is somewhat of a strange case in that you have two people who I don't think there's any doubt were working together in some capacity. Now, exactly what that capacity was is a little hard to pin down.
Sure it is.
No doubt authorities believe Shawn was the killer. There are still questions as to why a man with no previous criminal record would commit 3 murders in such a short time span. And we said it, right? Shawn had no previous criminal record. Tim, on the other hand, he had a whole laundry list of charges that he had racked up over the years. Does it absolutely mean that someone, couldn't start committing crimes, even committing murders? I would say the answer is no, right? Everybody has to start somewhere.
Could you also say, is it possible someone has been committing crimes and just never got caught and has no record?
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. It is true that most of the time, when we're talking about these types of killers, they have a long rap sheet, right? There's evidence of them doing things as kids, as young adults, but I think it is possible that someone was maybe doing it, but just good at getting away with it. And so they actually didn't have a record. The problem, I think, as it relates to Shawn Gant-Benalcazar is that, all the different sources that we use for this episode, in them, there just wasn't much on his background like you would find with a big time serial killer. So, what was the guy's motive? Was it all about getting his hands on jewelry and him just kind of killing in the process? Or did he enjoy killing, as most serial killers do? I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
You could make the argument that you go in to rob a place, you encounter resistance, and then a murder takes place. Or that a person goes in to kill, they're going to do that regardless.
Sure they are.
While they're at it, they're going to help themselves to jewelry and whatever else they can find.
Yeah. While I'm in here, let me grab some of this bounty.
You've already committed the greatest sin.
You have.
So
what's stealing after that?
Yeah, stealing is kind of an afterthought almost. But I don't really know what the truth is. Obviously, the jury thought there was enough evidence against both of these guys in the murder of Kathy Blair. And in the case of Tim, he opened his mouth so much, I think, in trying to blame Shawn.
Sure, yeah.
That he kind of condemned himself as it related to the Sheltons.
He might have been better off just not saying anything.
And most people are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you've made abundantly clear many, many times.
Absolutely.
But that's it for our episode on Shawn Gant-Benalcazar. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Aaron from South Louisiana. A big fan of y'all's show. If y'all ever do a show in South Louisiana and y'all can't pronounce any of the last names, give me a call or a ring and I can help you pronounce them. Also, there's two cases that I think you guys should cover that I find very interesting. One is Ronald Dominique. He's known as the Bayou Strangler. He operated in South Louisiana, actually my hometown, for over 10 years. They could never catch the guy because whenever he'd kill him, he'd dump him in the swamps, and the South Louisiana weather would make the bodies decompose very fast, so they could never really find him. Another case I think you guys should cover is the Red Ripper, Andrei Chikatilo. He operated in Soviet Russia, and he killed over 40 people. Two really interesting cases. But hope y'all play on. Y'all have a good one. Happy New Year.
All right, so two big names there.
Sure.
Ronald Dominique, you and I were going to do very early on, and I mean in like year one, but I think we ran into a series of Louisiana cases.
We did.
Like both TCAT and Unsolved, and I kind of said, hey, we got to lay off Louisiana for a little bit. And then we just never came back around to him.
Yeah.
So we need to bump him up the list. Chikatilo is fascinating, but there's so many details and he killed so many people. I don't know how many episodes it would take to tell that story correctly. But they're both on the list, no doubt.
We'll do them.
The Ohio State, baby. The Ohio State, baby. 2024 national champs. Oh, hey! That was Brad Chafin, by the way, from Columbus. How about them Buckeyes, baby? I love you, Mike and Gibby. Y'all my dudes, man. Y'all my dudes. Keep your own time ticking.
All right. Well, obviously I had to play that.
Oh, of course.
Love you too.
Yeah.
And it was a big week, and that Buckeyes win was huge.
It was gigantic.
And we take a lot of pride in our sports teams. When I say us, I just mean everyone.
Yeah.
So when your team wins it all, it's such a big deal.
It is a big deal.
But the thing about sports is there's only one team left at the end of the long, grueling season.
Right.
So pretty much everyone else is unhappy, and one team's fans are elated. And that's pretty much what sports is.
We get bragging rights for a little bit.
For a little bit. But it was cool. It was cool to watch.
Love it.
All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
How did the internet go from this?
You could actually find what you were looking for right away, bang,
to this?
I feel like I'm in hell.
Spoiler alert, it was not an accident. I'm Cory Doctorow, host of Who Broke the Internet from CBC's Understood. In this 4-part series, I'm going to tell you why the internet sucks now, whose fault it is, and my plan to fix it. Find Who Broke the Internet on whatever terrible app you get your podcasts.